So seemingly lately there's been a preponderance of commodity-based coins and tokens where you have a cryptocurrency and the underlying asset is some kind of commodity. And so the question that I get all too often is, can you offer your advice or guidance regarding securities laws? Well, that doesn't make any sense, obviously, because since 2015, cryptocurrency has been defined and sort of taken under the umbrella of the CFTC. And as it relates to that, you are now dealing with a set of commodities laws. Now, security tokens and ICOs, right, often touch the securities world, and that legal opinion becomes necessary, obviously. But a simple coin, cryptocurrency like a Bitcoin or Ether or Litecoin or what have you, is a commodity. And the question becomes, especially for exchanges, right? What happens when you're dealing with tokens or coins that are leveraged or financed or margined in some way, right? And how that has impacted the regulation, which it has. Because you've seen the CFTC initiate litigation against an exchange that was offering what was effectively commodity swaps, with the underlying asset being Bitcoin. And so the concept of actual delivery comes into play, because if it didn't, you'd have a real tough time operating an exchange in the United States, which right now only requires money transmitter licenses, doesn't touch any sort of regulation of CFTC or SEC for that matter. And the concept of actual delivery in finance margined or swap-based commodities transactions deals with the concept of when the underlying asset becomes yours, right? You actually take title, okay? And the general rule of thumb is 28 days, right? If you can deliver the underlying commodity within 28 days, then you're exempt from CFTC regulation, right? That's the general rule. And the caveat to that, or the corollary to that rather, being that in addition to having to be able to take title, right, full title, is that the party delivering the asset can't hold any interest in it, right? Whether that be like security interest or anything of that measure. So when you're thinking about, I see like oil tokens, right? I see all sorts of commodity tokens, right? Where one token will represent some quantity of what is otherwise a commodity governed by the Commodity Exchange Act. And again, those are fine, but you have to make sure delivery and title can be transferred within 28 days of purchasing the token, right? So for instance, if I had a token platform that was tied to an underlying asset of corn, right? And that each token represented a bushel of corn. Great platform, sure it works. But if I, as the promoter, can't deliver that token, that underlying commodity, that bushel of corn, within 28 days, then I am going to be subject to the CEA, and I'm going to be subject to having to register with the NFA and CFTC. And my crypto exchange, which is offering some leveraged transaction or swap-based transaction, is operating legally, right? So the only way that crypto exchanges, and I think it's really unknowingly, get around the wealth of commodities regulation, which is really an odd duck and very few people are wildly familiar with it, is the fact that settlement takes place immediately, right? If that settlement took 29 days, then you'd be out of luck. So when you're thinking about developing, and this seems to be more in the context of like an ICO, a commodity-based, almost like a crypto depository receipt, right? Which I've talked about here before, and the underlying asset is a commodity governed by the CEA. Delivery, and what's referred to as actual delivery in the statute, is paramount, right? And that delivery, in my mind, and my advice would be, make that delivery as instantaneous as humanly possible. And delivery just means title, right? So obviously, if it's the bushel of corn example, you don't have to somehow physically deliver the bushel of corn, because in the commodity futures world, you just gain title at a certain location, much like oil, right? So it's something to think about, but it's a fundamental premise in this actual delivery that really sort of an exemption there too, that allows any crypto exchanges to exist without having to have some form of regulation by the CFTC, which obviously there's still some regulations subject to commodities fraud and things of that nature, but as it relates to the actual trading of crypto and how that works, and how we're limited in the US in the absence of a general cryptocurrency license to just state level money transmitter licenses. So interesting topic, not really on point to anything, but if you're putting together a ICO or even an STO and the underlying asset is a commodity, definitely something to consider. And you have questions, definitely hit me up, Adam at AdamTracy, TRACY.io, and I'd be happy to chat with you and see what we can figure out. So I'll talk to you soon.